in concert.
Newsfirst, Newsline.
Good evening and welcome to Newsline. May 2021 saw Sri Lanka's biggest maritime and ecological disaster. Container ship MV Express Pearl carrying hazardous chemicals caught fire off the coast of Sri Lanka with tons of plastic pellets and pollutants washing up on the country's shores, causing irreparable and immeasurable harm and damage to the country's ecosystem and economy. Now, just 2 days ago, it was reported that an agreement has been reached with regard to an interim compensation. But over and above these reactionary measures, what steps must the Sri Lankan government take to consolidate Sri Lanka's position as a logistical and a global maritime hub whilst protecting its ocean health? Let's dive right in. I'm pleased to welcome to the studio Dr. Ajantha Perera. She's an environmental scientist. Good evening and welcome.
Good evening. Thank you for inviting me.
Absolutely. It's wonderful to have you here with us.
Thank you.
Firstly, before I ask you the questions at hand, I've seen you being vocal in the political arena year in, year out. Aren't you exhausted?
Well, the thing is, somebody has to speak. I'm a firm believer in the right to speak, and many of the people in Sri Lanka today are so scared to speak. And I think when we speak, people get the courage to speak. And I think this is something that we need to exercise today in Sri Lanka, because many of the people, they feel that when a hierarchy says something very, very stupid, and they know they need to respond to it, but yet they feel that if I do respond to it, I could be put behind bars. And it cannot happen that way. We have the right to speak in this country. If you are born to Sri Lanka, whether you are Tamil, Sinhala, Muslim, Burgher, whatever it may be, if you are a child born to Sri Lanka and you've grown up here, and whatever the age may be, and if you want something to be said, say it. You have the right to do that. And I think my biggest hope and prayer is that as much as I am speaking, there will be more people who will join in this and they will speak. As long as you're not trying to embarrass anyone, as long as you are not trying to demean anyone. But the most important thing is be brave to speak the truth. Truth will always win, and the truth is something that we need to exercise. So I think in that sense, I'm happy that I'm speaking.
Absolutely, and indeed the freedom of expression is enshrined as a fundamental right in Sri Lanka's constitution. Getting back to Express Pearl, the maritime disaster showed how ill-prepared Sri Lanka is as a country to deal with such a situation. We are a party to a host of conventions and treaties in this respect. But looking at it from a policy perspective, Dr. Perera, how must Sri Lanka go about building capacity, conducting risk assessments, reviewing existing laws and structures to ensure that we are in line with international best practices, raising public awareness? Talk to us about the policy frameworks that we also as citizens need to be cognizant of.
Okay. Well, basically, a maritime hub is an important, it's a very important role in the economic development of a nation. So it's true that we need to have harbors, we need to have ships coming in, going out, and we need the trade. Trade is very important. But on the other hand, when we look at how we manage our harbor, how we manage our ecosystem which is in the reach of the harbor, we need to ensure that we are always safeguarding, protecting the rights of the people as well as the economy and as well as our relationship with other people. For example, with regard to the Express Pearl, this is a Singapore flagship. And it had a container that was leaking, a nitric acid container, and it was coming, it was refused, they were not granted, they were not allowed to go into the harbors of two other countries because they said, sure, a leaking nitric acid container is not something that we could deal with. And so they were wondering as to what they could do with it. Now, according to the law of the sea, they should have taken it to the deep sea, and they should have taken care of that container there itself. I mean, a rescue team could have come, they could have taken it away from the ship, and then everything would have been fine. But instead, what they did was they came to Sri Lanka, and as far as the harbour master is saying, as far as the authorities, the marine authorities in the harbour area are saying, PSC, the port state controllers are saying is that they never informed the Sri Lankan harbour authorities that there is a nitric acid leaking container inside the ship. So, Human Rights Commission carried out an inquiry into this aspect because we requested from them. And when they carried out the inquiry, they found out was we actually, the chairperson of the Human Rights Commission requested the harbour master to come, he requested the other authorities to come, and when they came, all what they said was they were unaware of the fact that there was a container on board that ship which was dangerous, which we consider as a dangerous cargo because it was leaking. And so, they have allowed the ship to come closer, and only once they have entered the Sri Lankan waters, they have informed us that there is this situation on board. So, automatically by that time the fumes were coming out, and then there was this fire that came on, and then therefore, what happened was the authorities were unable, they were taken by surprise, and so they had to deal with it the best way they can. Now, the question that arises for me is, there is a shipping agent, there is a shipping agent here in Sri Lanka who is actually in charge of that, the welfare of the ship that is coming in, and also the welfare of the port authority. Unfortunately, what really happened was that the shipping agent has not taken care of this whole situation very well, because he would have known about the disastrous situation of that ship before the ship actually arrived, because he is in touch with the shipping company itself. He is part and parcel of the shipping company. But the harbour master and the PSC, they are all working for the Sri Lankan government. So, what really happened was there was miscommunication between, or no communication at all between them. So, eventually what really happened was there was a fire, there were so many containers on board, like you said, there were plastic pellets, and then there was oil containers, there was containers contaminate with very dangerous cargo, and all these things got dislodged from the ship and fell into the seabed. And eventually the ship itself went and landed on the coral reef. So many disasters occurred because of the very fact that the shipping agent and the owners of the ship never informed our authorities of the situation. Now, the MIPA is also another organization, Marine Environmental Protection Agency, right? They themselves should have acted in such a way in this situation. I mean, they should have been ready for any disaster that occurs in a ship. So, basically what they did was they themselves went ahead and they tried to do whatever is possible. But the question that arises for me is, if there is a particular protocol, if there are guidelines to say that this is the way that you handle it, then they need to go about and do that. So, the MIPA basically did was they did not inform the PSC, the Port State Control, or they did not inform the harbour master exactly as to how to go about doing this. I mean, there are two things. One is taking care of the ship itself, making sure that it does not catch fire or something happens so that it is it is beyond our control. The second aspect is the compensation. If you have a situation where a ship comes into our waters and it ends up catching fire, and then eventually that the damage is for our natural ecosystem and also to our infrastructure and our environment. So MIPA should have thought of the compensation. They did not act in a proper way in order to get that compensation done, because already there was damage. And then what happened was, when everything was over, in Sri Lanka we wait for a long time, and everything was over, then of course they started to think of compensation. How are we going to get compensation? Because if we remember it, so many turtles have died, so many whales have died, so many dolphins have died, and the other fish, they must have got dissolved because of the nitric acid. And the fishermen could not go and fish in the ocean. So many aspects came in, but we started to think of this compensation as to what should we do, that big question mark. We started to think about it very late. By that time, so many things have happened, and the shipping agent and the owner of the ship was trying to rescue their name. They were trying to rescue whatever they can do quickly in order to show that there was not so much damage to our waters. They were doing that. They were even trying to take parts of the ship away from here, so that they can say, okay, we'll give you a small compensation. But the company, the insurer company of the shipping agent, or rather the shipping company, the insurer, what he did was, while we were trying to find as to what we should do, he went ahead and he took a limitation order in the UK. What he did was, he knew we will ask for compensation. He knew very soon there will be a court case on compensation, right? So what he did was, he went ahead of us, he went to UK and put a court case to say that there should be a limitation on the compensation, and the limitation was given something in the range of USD 23 to 26 million, which is so small compared to the damage that actually occurred. In the meantime, people like us, we went ahead and knowing about the damage that occurred, what we did was, we went ahead and we filed cases in the Supreme Court. And and we were waiting for the Attorney General Department also to file the case. So now here is MIPA, the Marine Environmental Protection Authority, which is actually who is the one who should have actually filed the case. They have not done anything. What they did, the only thing they did was, they actually called the International Tankers Organization, or rather the insurer itself of the shipping company, to come and assist them. So they called the P&I Club, which is the insurer of the shipping, ship owners insurer, to come and assist them. So the P&I Club, right, they came to Sri Lanka and they were starting their assessment. See, we are an independent nation. We have MIPA is the organization which has been established under an act to take care of the environment of the ocean. Now, we should have filed the case immediately. We are the ones who should have done the assessments. But we were so late, and we were expecting the insurance company of the ship owners to advise us on how to go about it. And so the MIPA did this biggest mistake they can by inviting the insurance company to come and give us thoughts as to how we should go about it. So what eventually happened was the Attorney General decided, I don't know why the Attorney General took the, he decided to put the case, because it was MIPA who should have actually done. He's the one, MIPA should have filed the case, but instead Attorney General has said that he is the one who would, he should be doing this. So eventually, almost very close to the last date of filing a case, they went ahead and filed the case in Singapore. Now the issue that which you and I both know is, when they have taken a limitation order for the compensation from UK, it's valid in Singapore, but it's not valid in Sri Lanka. So by filing a case in Singapore, what the Attorney General has done now is that we are subjected to the limitation order of UK, which means the biggest amount that we can get from as a compensation from this is only 23 to 26 USD in millions, right? So which I feel is a real shame, because now if you really look at a country, we as Sri Lankans, right, we need to have these kind of disasters could happen at any time, but we need to have a proper system, proper way of doing these things. But unfortunately, this was not the way it was handled. And then a parliamentary select committee was appointed in order to look into it, and this also came a little bit late. And the parliamentary selected committee actually went through this. They called us as well to come and give evidence or to discuss about it. And eventually, the big question mark came was, why did Attorney General decide to file the case against Express Pearl Shape in Singapore, knowing very well that there is a limitation order?
Dr. Perera, we were discussing the Express Pearl maritime disaster and its aftermath. Just recently, we were informed that the Attorney General's department said that an agreement has been reached for interim compensation of US dollars 89 million and 16 million LKR for damages caused by Express Pearl disaster. In the meantime, MIPA had filed a report in which it had said that it quantifies the damage caused at 6.4 billion US dollars.
Yeah, this is the thing. Now, the environmental assessment report says it should be 6.4 billion US dollars, right? Now, the Attorney General went to Singapore. While our court cases were still pending, he went to Singapore and he says he had discussions there with the relevant parties. Now, Mr. Vijayadasa Rajpaksha says that what the Attorney General has actually received is, he said in the Parliament, it was American dollars. How many was it? He gave a big figure. He gave the figure that almost what you were saying, something in millions, but it's not correct. Because later on, he actually apologized and said that it was not millions, but American dollars, only 857,000. So 857,000 USD is not equivalent to 87 million USD. Now he has made the correction already, and but the situation is this: you can, he can say that he has got this amount, but if you compare this amount to the 6.4 billion USD that we should have received, it's just a small amount of money. And why? We have the court cases, we have a report on environmental assessment already in place, which says very clearly that we should be getting 6.4 billion USD.
But this is only the interim compensation amount. And
I
the case
do not.
is ongoing.
I do not believe that, because you see, Mr. Vichidasa Rajapaksa says is in the parliament without a document. He has still not produced a document where it says in black and white that the insurer is willing to pay this amount. It doesn't say that. He has not put forward a document to show the public that that this is given in writing. So how could we believe that? I mean, he can come and say anything in the parliament, and if he does not produce a document, why should we believe him? And the other thing is, he made very big mistake with the figures. I mean, he should tell the public the exact figure of compensation which they have promised. So this is very, very important, because he can't just come and say it. Number two, the second point is the consultative, the selective committee of the parliament have said as their conclusions very clearly that Attorney General has made a mistake by taking this court case to Singapore, because it costed us a tremendous amount of money, as much as 4 million USD it has costed us, because they have hired a Australian firm to look after the court case. And then another thing is that, you know, now they are travelling to Singapore in order to support the court case, and that's also costing us a lot of money, and we don't know how much it's going to cost us in the future. And also they have gone actually filed the case in the wrong court. So, you know, it should be International Commercial High Court, and they have gone and filed it in a different place. So what I kind of feel is, can we afford to do all this? If the Attorney General has made a mistake, right, and this is not his own case, this is something for the public, this is the Sri Lankans who are actually going, I mean, this money is on behalf of the Sri Lankans, because the compensation package comes to Sri Lankan people. It's their sea, it's their resources that were destroyed, you know. And so why did Attorney General take the initiative to go to Singapore to file the case if he cannot justify it? Now, if the Parliamentary Selective Committee report says very clearly that, you know, he has not done it correctly, then why can't the Parliament hold an inquiry about it? I mean, why is the Parliament keeping so quiet about it? I mean, I'm not only talking about the government side, but also the opposition should now say that they need to hold an inquiry regarding this issue, because if the Attorney General has not done the correct thing, and if he is the one who is actually going to courts in Singapore, you know, to give evidence, and then very soon, I'm sure, you know, the other people from the even the PSC controllers and others will be called from time to time. You know, Director General Merchant Shipping, all these people will be called from time to time to give evidence. Now, has the Attorney General shown these people whatever the evidence that he has to support this case? I mean, I don't see the Attorney General actually bringing these people together in order to win the case. Now, for example, the MIPA, right? MIPA should have put the case through, but the Attorney General is the one who has actually taken the initiative. So why did he do that? You know, at the end of the day, the question is, who's going to suffer? It's the people in Sri Lanka. Attorney General can make a mistake, MIPA can make a mistake, but at the end, the compensation will be less for the people of Sri Lanka. I mean, when we could get 6.4 billion USD, we are going to end up with maybe a very small amount.
Right. Now that is yet to be seen. Thank you for your perspectives. If we are to look at how to prevent such a calamity from taking place again, what measures must be put in place?
I think the most important thing is there is a proper order, you know, order of things. For example, the MIPA, which is the authority, they are the ones who should be taking the initiative in order to do all this work. They are the ones who should be guiding and directing the harbour masters, the PSC controller, the director merchant shipping, director general merchant shipping, as to how they should go about, number one, legally taking steps in order to remedy the case. Number two, they should do an assessment exactly what happened. They should do an overall assessment, and then they should also make sure that their compensation package is properly in place. The third thing is, they don't need to go abroad to do these court cases. We have enough of judges and we have enough of legal people here in Sri Lanka who could take up a case such as this here in Sri Lanka. So, and the other thing, one of the things that I feel is, we don't need to involve the insurer of the ship to come and help us out. And this is exactly what MIPA did. They got the insurer, who's the one who should be paying us, to come and assist us. And very important is the Parliamentary Selective Committee, right? When they do an investigation and when they put a case through, and when they have actually brought forward something as grave as this to say that the Attorney General was wrong, you can't just brush it under the carpet, you can't just put it in a drawer and say, let's forget about this. I mean, anyone is able to make mistake. This should not be the way in Sri Lanka. We want justice. And why do we have a constitution?
My final question to you, because we're almost running out of time, how important is it for Sri Lanka to not work in a silo, but rather to engage in knowledge sharing, resource sharing with its neighbours when it comes to the maritime matter?
I think on the whole, I mean, since we need to be developing the shipping industry, of course, we need to be, continuing to support, everyone who actually comes through the harbour in order to get their services done. We need to have a very friendly, we need to be able to assist them. But at the same time, the most important thing to realize is that the natural resources of the sea belongs to us. And even today, the turtles are dying. There's a death of a dolphin. There was a whale that they found that has washed ashore. And so the disaster continues. And the containers which were containing all these chemicals are still in the seabed. And these containers are opening up now. And so the disaster will continue for many years to come. You see, our people need to understand a disaster of this nature, you can't just take some compensation, forget about it, but it's going to go on for a long time. So if the legal people, the scientists and the organizations work together and listen to other scientists who say these things and make sure that not only that we get compensation, but how are we going to clean the sea and make sure that our children don't have to go through this or suffer because of this accident that happened in 2021.
All right, sobering facts indeed. Thank you very much for sharing your perspectives, Dr. Ajantha Perera, a political scientist. Thank you for watching us. We'll see you again tomorrow. Good night.